Welcome to Keep the Game Beautiful podcast. Each week, I highlight incredible people who are doing amazing things in soccer, the beautiful game. I'm Anna Turi, your host. Thank you for listening. Today and for the next few weeks, we'll be talking about some difficult topics that many may find hard to learn and talk about. Today with Candice, I talk about sexual assault. It's very important to learn about this and know how to help protect athletes. Studies have shown that about 1 in 5 females or college females are affected by sexual assault. I think as a soccer community, we need to really talk about it and understand it so we can better ourselves and help protect our athletes and everyone involved. Candice is very open, and she's not afraid to talk about difficult or hard topics, which is something very valuable. She has really found herself a voice, and she's encouraging other women and young women to find their voices as well. And she's been very positive and uplifting towards me when I found my voice starting the podcast. So I hope you enjoy today's episode. Today's guest is Candice Fabry. Candice works as the director for member services at Iowa Soccer. She has coached across all youth ages and holds her B license and as a coach instructor. Before coaching, she was a player competing at the D1 level. She is the co-founder of the Iowa Women in Soccer Alliance. I have known Candice for a decent amount of time now, and we visited a few months ago at United Soccer Coaches class in Kansas City. So if you want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me on. I've been listening for a while. I'm very excited about what you're doing and proud of you for finding a voice in this very virtual new world of able to communicate within the soccer game. So awesome. Congrats to you and thanks again. Just brief background, I guess. I played and grew up in Chicago and then went to the University of Toledo in Ohio and played soccer there and graduated with a degree, which is always important. While I was playing, they did find a stress fracture in my back. So I did redshirt my sophomore year. I was at the conclusion of my freshman year. They found the fracture, and up to that point I had been working camps. I had coached my sister's 3v3 team. There was this thought that I would be maybe a teacher and a coach. That was the plan, if there is ever a plan. That was a thought, and got into just breaking the game down more. My head coach was very engaging with me in terms of breaking down tactics and even what do you think about starting lineups during that redshirted year. So the coaching bug kind of got to me, and that was where I said, I think I might want to do this. Didn't know if I wanted to do club or youth or college. That was something I was trying to still figure out. But once I finished playing, I did get at least recovered enough to play a few more years. I came out of the playing and took my first coaching course. It was kind of hooked. Called my dad and said, I'm going to coach. And he said, oh, and teach. And I said, no, I'm just going to coach. And kind of said, well, how are you going to do that? And so, kind of worked my way through it. Had some odds and ends jobs, but coached in college, was an assistant coach at Toledo where I had played, and then coached youth. And through that time was progressing through my licenses fairly quickly every year, trying to get a course in and kind of to get it done, but then also just to absorb as much as I could. I knew I always wanted to be a mom. That was something that was on my plan. I didn't know how I was going to do it all. I can tell you that from the beginning. I just was like, I don't see very many moms coaching. So how do I do this and that? So long story short, kind of made a decision that I think college is not the best for being a mom. That doesn't mean I'm right. I still debate that. So I don't take my word for it. But got into youth as more of a focus area. And several years later, I have 2 kids and I coach club. I did it. It took an army. That's the big key. It takes an army to be a player, right? Your parents, your coaches, that's your army. Nothing changes as you get older. You need the army to be successful and be supported in what you need. So I've enjoyed my coaching journey. I feel like I'm at kind of a pause right now because I'm not coaching as frequently. Part of that is because I wanted to focus on my kids a little bit more. But I don't see it as the end of a chapter. I see me getting back to the fields more full time at some point. But I get a little bit of time to be a mom right now.
So on this podcast, Keep the Game Beautiful, I always start with the same 3 questions. So first, what does the beautiful game mean to you?
Oh man, you just gave me shivers by just even asking me that question. It's crazy that it means who I was, who I am, and who I continue to want to be, because the game brought so many experiences within this environment that I say it happened between the white lines, it happened off the lines, it happened at home, but it all really centered around the game. And I take that even to the days I wanted to quit. I mean, I don't know if I know you've ever, I wanted to quit. There was days that it happened to me, and I don't shy away from that discussion, but how did I find something that I loved so much that even the days that were my worst, that I thought I never would want to do this again, I woke up the next day and I did it. I talk about what it does for me today as a parent, what it means to be a role model, what it means to just have a conversation with when I'm at cheer with my daughter who does cheerleading and I talk as a soccer mom and what soccer does for me. And then, my future, I envision myself being on the field, maybe in a wheelchair, still coaching and trying to help, and still going to games, and being a season ticket holder at whoever's the closest. I'm not picky on who I have to follow. I just, would like to be able to see as much as I can and experience the environment. So to me, it encompasses everything that I have been and who I want to be, because it has everything in it. The game has everything in it, and that's what makes it pretty and beautiful.
What are actions or things you do to keep the game beautiful?
Well, I can tell you I don't do my hair for the sidelines, so I'm not helping any of that. But I can say that for me, the thing that I've really gotten into over the last several years, and part of it is finding my own voice as someone who was a victim of sexual assault by a coach, that protecting and finding ways to protect players and coaches, future coaches, of experiences like that is something that's huge. So part of my daily job is tracking and enforcing and talking about how important safe sport is. And if you're not familiar with it, it is just one of the federal mandated laws, so you're not going to really get around it if you're involved with any sort of youth sports or activities. But it's really a great organization that's out there that helps victims. It helps for reporting. If you're thinking something happened, as coaches now, we're mandatory reporters. So, that gut feeling that something's off or something's not right, or you see something, you have the ability to call and talk to people about your options. You're not calling to necessarily report. That could be at the end, you decide not to, but it's just an organization that's really there for the athletes and the coaches and the parents and the players ultimately. So, that's been a part of what I've tried to do to make the game beautiful, along with really supporting females within the game. I want more female players, but I have a mindset that what if we could increase the number of coaches, female referees, female executive directors, female TLs, female marketers, female general managers in the NWSL. If we have more of us and we see that we could be that, I think that's huge. And so that's part of why the Iowa Women in Soccer Alliance came about. That's why I chose to be a coaching or go for my instructor license, because there was no other females. And so that was important to me, that I continue to try to push myself and hopefully give maybe you or other of your friends going, oh, I could do that and that could be my life. Like, that would be cool. I think it's cool, but hopefully it can encourage some others and open the doors.
How do you encourage others to keep the game beautiful?
Talk openly. I think the part of the game that's beautiful is also the ugly parts. And so the more we can talk about the struggles and the obstacles and be open and transparent about that, not just as players, but as people. We just talked about how the feeling to quit is something everyone faces at some point, but you love the game. So how does loving the game equate to wanting to quit, and how do you go through that process? For me, it's, there's so many times that females are nervous to go take a coaching course because it's male dominated. Yeah, there's a lot more males typically in a coaching course than there are females, or maybe male instructors rather than female instructors. And so how do you get over that, and how do you get into that comfort zone? Well, guess what? The males are just as uncomfortable as we are. They're just as worried about it as we are. And I think, if we can get everybody in the room just talking about how nerve-wracking it is to walk into a space, and we're all honest about that, I think it would be great, because it kind of gives everybody the same playing field. Because I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to make it beautiful. We're all trying to make it something great. And so for me, I think it just means we all get down to sharing what the real experience is, and sugarcoat it if you need to, but you don't need to, because everyone has those same obstacles in some way or fashion.
So why did you decide to start playing soccer in the first place?
Truth is that I was signed up for ballet and I got in trouble. So my parents were looking for an activity for me, and soccer was the only thing available. So how did I get into it? Well, I was kind of just signed up, and I was the only girl on an all boys team in Winchester, Kentucky. Looking back at the videos, there's a guy with a wicked mullet as the referee. And it just it just came to me. And so there was never a time I wasn't playing. I did a lot of other activities, like basketball. I danced. I was actually on a competitive dance team. That was something that some people know and others don't. But yeah, I did a lot of other activities up until about sophomore year, when I decided to get a little bit more serious, knowing that I wanted to play in college, and played on a more competitive club team.
Did you care that you were the only girl in an all-boys team back then?
I was so young that I don't think I had a clue. However, in high school, a lot of times within high school sports and so on, I got pulled into like the all boys groups. I remember playing football in middle school and being asked to play on the boys field, because the girls and boys were on separate fields. I remember being brought in at summer camps onto the all boys field and not being able to play with the girls, just because they wanted a challenge. And I remember at that time being self-conscious, because it was can I be as rough with the guys? What if I'm too rough and they think, and what do the girls think that I got pulled over and they didn't? And it was a lot, but I can tell you at the end of the day, for all the thoughts that went through my head as I would either walk over to the boys field or whatever, once I got into that environment, like, it was guns a-blazing. Like, it's still competitive. I still want to be the best. I still want it to be kicking everybody's butt around me. So for me, a lot of it is I'm not as confident. I second guess everything. But the reality is, once you get me into the environment, I don't want to let anybody down. Most importantly, I don't want to let myself down. So I'm not going to hide away. I'm going to kick you where I can and get the goal as much as I can. So yeah, it's something that it was impactful more as I got older and got into those environments as the only female, that maybe added some more nerves and some consciousness on that.
So you talked about that feeling to quit. How did you get over that feeling?
I think, for me, there was a couple like really bigger moments. I was trying to decide if I go to the more competitive club, if soccer's really for me, if I'm going to be that competitive, if I really want that year-round impact, if I really want to put in every day, every hour towards the game. There was that moment that if I'm not going to do that, I might as well quit. And so there was that deep reflection that, this is what I've wanted. This is what I've said I've wanted. I know I want it, even though I complain. So a lot of it came down to having parents that were super supportive. So they weren't ever there saying I had to. I always had to finish what I started. So I always had to finish the year, but there was never the sense that I had to do this. I had to go get the college. There was none of that. So letting me have time to reflect and really look at what I wanted was huge. The other time I can remember wanting to quit or unsure if I really wanted to play was when my parents were going through a divorce. I was a senior in high school. And that's a really personal, impactful thing as a kid, and for those that ever experience it, you're uncertain of what is and what's going to be the future and so on. And what I think is amazing is, how coaches a lot of times say the game is such an outlet. You have such a frustrating day and you go play soccer and it's such a relief, right? I felt that, you go to school and school has tests and it has all these, and you go to soccer and you felt so much better. Well, during that time, I didn't feel better playing soccer. There was too much at home. that I was just going, it doesn't feel right to be out here. It's not enjoyable. And you know what? Credit to my coach. I said, I am miserable playing soccer right now. And he said, go take a break. And I was a senior in high school preparing to go play college, and I needed to train, but my mental break was more important, and he respected that. And so he gave me as much time as I needed, and I stepped away from the field. I didn't train. I didn't go to games. I didn't do anything. I focused on me and my family and my emotions, and, you know, at the ultimate said, okay, I'm ready to come back to the game and be what I needed to. But, you know, as a coach, I've taken that moment because he did exactly what he should have done, which was trust me and allow me to process something that soccer had been always the outlet, and it wasn't working right there. And so he let me find another outlet, which was just me processing and getting through it. So if I can give advice on that piece, is let time happen. Don't make gut decisions. You know, give yourself some time to reflect on why. If you can answer the why and be really comfortable with your why, you're probably following your heart and your gut in a good spot.
Why did you decide you wanted to continue to play in college?
For me, it had been one of those dreams that I had said I wanted to do ever since I could remember. I grew up in Chicago. I had, my dad was from South Bend, so I thought I could play at Notre Dame. I was going to go play at Notre Dame. I was not good enough to play at Notre Dame. I had teammates committing to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame hadn't even, you know, sent me a letter or called me. So again, it was something I knew I wanted to do. I knew my time with the game wasn't done. For me, it just made the most sense that why would I continue life without it? Obviously, as I continue, soccer not in my life is weird. So I think the biggest thing was probably having the injury at the end of freshman year, the fracture in my back that kind of altered some of that because it was not playing every day. So how is that going to be a part of my life? How is the game going to really continue to impact? So for me, it just is what made sense. It was enjoyable. It was hard, but it brought me some of the best friends I have. It brought tears. It brought happiness, and maybe a fractured back, but yeah, it's all good. I can still walk. So I'm a lucky dog.
So you already talked a little bit about deciding to coach. So what was the decision like when you decided to coach, like only coach?
I won't forget the moment that the coach passed me the marker and said, put the starting lineup on the board. And here's why. And I talk to coaches a lot about this, that are going, hey, we need more female coaches. How do we get female coaches in the game? Well, you talk to females just like you talk to males about the game and say, do you want to coach? And here's some things about coaching. Do you like it? And so I remember getting the marker, and I remember putting up the starting lineup and being asked why, why this person, why that, whatever. And at that point, I remembered just enjoying the ability to have the decision, the starting lineup, the decision on who, the decision on why, and really enjoying the thought process that goes into that. And so that was really the moment I was like, no, I think this is what I want to do full time. And shortly after there, just having a conversation about this is what I want to do full time. How do I do it? And that's where it really took off. But it was literally like passing the marker and almost empowering me. Not almost, it definitely empowered me to say, all right, this is pretty darn cool. And I'd like to do this a lot and have this feeling a lot. So, yeah.
Why do you think it's important for a young woman to have another woman for a mentor?
I think, grand scheme of things, there's just some things as females we go through that males, as much as they can understand and be fantastic support systems, they just don't go through it. And that's the same for males. There's things as females we won't understand because we can't biologically go through it. But what I think is important in this environment and in what we do is that soccer is a weird schedule. It is not a 9 to 5. You're working nights, you're working weekends. I can tell you right now, daycare was always the biggest question. Who's going to watch the kids when I have practice from 5 to 9:30 at night? Who's going to watch them during the game? And, the parents would go, oh, great, I can watch them on the sideline. Or go to the game where it's downpouring rain and 50 degrees. No one wants to hold the baby that time. Everyone's cold and wet. So for me, like just finding that joy in what I'm doing has been, the biggest thing that I've tried to focus on how to be a mom. And to do that is a lot of work. But at the end of the day, me working as a coach and within this game has made me a better person, not just a female, a better person, which then makes me a good parent, which makes me then a good mentor, which then makes me a good friend. And so for me, if I'm looking at how can I help the next generation of young women, is that there is someone that kind of looks like you. There's someone that maybe had a similar experience that's the same gender. You're more likely to probably come ask them questions. And so for me, it's just that there's somebody there. I didn't really have anybody. I can't really think of too many women that I could go to and say, hey, I want to be a mom, or hey, how's it to be the only female at a course and everyone's mad because you're the only one with your own room because all the other guys have to bunk up together. So some of those weird little nuances that happen, it's just good that and hopeful that you guys will be more comfortable to maybe pick up the phone and call us and be someone that sounds and looks like you and can answer some of the questions that are specific to you. So is it important? I hope so. I also say go find a male mentor. I have them, and they are some of the most fantastic people that when I wasn't sure if I was going to coach through a lot of experiences, they were right there for me, being as supportive as I think a female could. So for me, it's just more I can see her, but I can be her. And it's just a good example and role model of somebody that looks like you and maybe encourages you.
So can you talk about the Iowa Women in Soccer Alliance and why it was started?
Yeah, absolutely. So the group, as informal as it is, it was really something I give credit to Ginger McGill at Vision in Waukee. She was the one that heck years ago was trying to get all of us who coach as females in Iowa together. And schedules are tough. And so things were getting harder, and people could meet and people couldn't meet. So occasionally Lindsay Horner and Ginger and I would meet for coffee and talk about things that were going on. Some of those similar questions we get asked is, how do we get more female coaches? Or can you go get us more female coaches? Or what do we can do to get more female players and female coaches? And we're all just sitting there going, we're all getting asked the same thing. So what can we do? And so really what came out of it was saying, well, let's establish a network. If we all know one another exists, can we then start creating some initiatives with that? So the idea really came out of let's create a network, and the easiest way to do that right now is obviously social media. So creating the Facebook group was really step one, and opening that up to males and females, opening it up to outside of coaches. That was really important to me, that we got referees and we have administrators and different varying people. If you were impacting the game, we want you in the space. And male and female, because males are a really good ally. So long story short, the hope is that we're, motivating more females being in the game, educating about female issues and female topics that maybe are hard and tough to talk about. Celebrating women. So the Sports Bra Project, I think, is a great way to celebrate female athletes in a way that males can and can't understand. And so, those types of things and projects, I would love the group to be able to do more. I want to do more with the group. Time is always such a rare commodity these days, but the hope is actually even to do some stuff in Kansas City now that I'm here, establishing more of a network, because there's groups actually all over. There's one in Wisconsin. There's one in Nebraska. I know Georgia, Texas. I mean, there's so many female groups out there right now that I'm working as well with some people to try to find ways that we actually connect regionally and nationally with these other female advocacy groups for not just soccer, actually sport in general. So it's exciting. And so that's kind of the root of it, and hopefully where we can start moving things.
Can you talk a bit about the Sports Bra Project and what it really was?
Yeah, so I had seen the Sports Bra Project in a few different avenues, and it really caught my eye because, one, it's doing a fantastic thing. It's providing a necessary sport equipment item, which is the sports bra, to females in need and females that maybe aren't being served with a financial resource system that gives them these required pieces of equipment. So what it does You can create basically a fundraising, a donation. It can be a team, it could be a business, it could be an individual. But what we used it with for the Iowa Women in Soccer Alliance was to try to kickstart the recognition of the group being organized. So the plan was to use the Sports Bra Project to create a fundraiser to get 200 sports bras. I reached out to colleges, club, high school programs. To me, it was going, this is a statewide initiative. Let's all talk about the most uncomfortable thing, which is undergarments. No one talks about that stuff. You don't want to talk about it. It's weird. But for females, the reality is that it's an equipment piece that can make playing sports comfortable. And you would ask a similar question to a male. If there was something that made physically running uncomfortable, wouldn't you want something to fix that? Duh. So as females, we are naturally looking for that, and the quality sports bra changes that. And especially when you're talking about the age in which females quit, which is in that 13 to 15 year age range. And that's a huge part of puberty, is suddenly you've got breasts that you've got to figure out how to play soccer and run. And so this equipment is necessary. And Sarah, who runs the Sports Bra Project, is an amazing human being. We've connected several times over the last few years, and just hearing what's going on with the Sports Bra Project beyond, the little things that we do here and there. It's really an amazing organization doing fantastic things. So certainly happy to connect anybody who would look to do a drive for it. We were hoping to do it this spring, but obviously there's a lot of things going on in the world right now that are prohibiting that. But yeah, it's an amazing project, something that I would encourage groups to get involved with if they're looking for something to really make an impact.
So you said you constantly get asked the same question, what can we do to get more women coaches? But what should players or coaches say to another player that wants to start coaching?
Go try it out. Coaching is such a fun way to be involved in the game, but the best way to learn how to coach is by experiencing it. And, it's the same way as playing. You get better by playing the game. So we watch it. I watch other coaches. Go watch other coaches coach. Go coach a 3v3 team. I can tell you that was like one of the most fun experiences I had. I think I was 17 and I was coaching like a 9 girls 3v3 team on a local 3v3 tournament in the summer. And I had to organize practices and I coached them in their games. And in that, just go experience it. You can go talk to, I can guarantee, almost any coach right now and say, hey, I think I want to be a coach. And they will get you involved in some little session, little camp. And it's such a rewarding profession, whether you do it as a volunteer or paid. Just go try it. Like, that would be the thing. Go try it, because even if you don't make your absolute living out of coaching, the pure joy you will get out of working with kids and showing them the love of the game you have and giving them that opportunity to find it in their own there's nothing really better in life. Like, best thing. So if you want to coach and you're Anna's teammate or anybody's teammate and you want some opportunities, heck, call me. I will find a way to get you into a practice, a camp, anything. Just go experience it and have fun and watch others and beg, borrow, and steal, man. That's the best way to coach. There's things my husband does I would never coach that way, but there are things that I'm like, that is awesome. I got to bring that into what I do. So yeah, that would be the advice I give. Go try it out. No harm.
How do we keep players safe from abuse?
Yeah, that's one that, I wish I could be Wonder Woman, and every time I, get that spider sense that something bad's going on, I can come in and save the day. The biggest thing for me that I can say is, if you think there's something going on, there's probably something going on. And so as players, there's a few avenues to take down. And the first thing as players is, can we educate children in general about what is appropriate and inappropriate? Being really upfront about what is an appropriate action from a coach to tell you did a good job. What is an inappropriate action from a coach to tell you did a good job? Same thing about telling you didn't do a good job. What's appropriate, what's not. Because abuse comes in several different ways. It's, obviously physical, mental, emotional, sexual, it can happen in several different ways. So having players understand and kids understand what's appropriate and what's not is huge. The other part is giving them the ability to question and ask. So if they're not sure, where can they safely go and get that information, saying this just doesn't feel right? Can they do that? Can they say that? Is this, in a safe space? So I think educating and empowering kids, and as adults, we have to listen. We have to not, just hear. We have to listen and absorb to what the kids are doing and what they're saying and how they're saying it and what their body language tells us. Because as coaches, as mandatory reporters now, the abuser could be a family member, it could be an athletic trainer, it could be the neighbor. You just don't know where that abuse is coming from. And again, you don't know which way it's coming from. You just empowering and listening them to them, to empower them, to give you and trust you to give you information. And then as the adults, having the knowledge and education to know, or knowledge and education about what options are available for you to report. Not just available, but required of you to report to. And so that's where, I get a lot of questions about, well, this is what I've heard, or this is what I've seen. What should I be doing? And Safe Sport gives a lot of good outline about what you should be doing, what goes to authorities, what doesn't go to authorities. And in most cases, most of it's going to go to the authorities, and those are the people that should be taking those head on. But Safe Sport is an amazing organization that gives you the ability to call in, email. I actually reported to Safe Sport as a victim, and it was an amazing experience because I actually started it by putting in an anonymous contact sheet email. So I didn't talk to anybody. And then said, would you be willing to take a phone call? And I said, yeah, sure. So I put my name to the phone call once I, answered that and got on the line with them. But it's just a good resource for how can we protect. And what I want players to know and athletes is it's for you too. This exists, that if you think there's something happening to you and you don't feel comfortable to talk to your parents or a teacher or a coach or any other adult in your space, you can actually go talk to Safe Sport and they can guide you on what you can do. And I think that's huge as well, is that we start to inform athletes where they can go. Parents, that's a hard thing for a parent to know. If your kid comes to you and says, this is what's happened to me as a parent, you're sometimes, as much as we want to be superheroes, we don't always know the answer, and Safe Sport can help. So really having that resource known so well from players, coaches, parents, and anyone involved within athletics, and especially youth activities. It's so important. So tell a friend, take a training, let me know how I can help with that. But yeah, it's huge to help us.
Could you share your experience with a former college coach?
Yeah, I'll give the G-rated version. So basically, had decided that, or had a couple opportunities to maybe coach elsewhere in college. So this was outside of, I completed playing, was making the decision on being a college coach. And so I had decided to stay where I had played. So there was a lot of trust. There was a lot of mentorship that I felt like I could get by staying at the university I had played at. And the evening that I had the incident happen, I had been coaching a U9 girls team. It was like my first team. And so it was July, it was hot. I remember wearing a t-shirt and shorts, and I was honestly stinky, and met everybody at a restaurant to kind of say, hey, I'm going to stay at the university and coach at the university along with doing club. And so, by the end of the evening, there's me walking to the bathroom by myself within this restaurant, and I feel a tug, and I get pulled into, I think it was a coat closet. It was some sort of closet. And behold, my coach has pinned me against the wall and is kissing me and touching me highly, highly inappropriately. So I remember being absolutely frozen. I remember, just being unsure of what the heck was happening. But then that fight or flight kind of hit, and I did both. I pushed and then ran. So I guess I did not fight or flight. I did both, and ran to the bathroom. And I was crying, and I was trying to call, try to figure out who I call, because this is our coach. This is somebody we all trust. So I didn't want to call my roommates who had played with me and knew him. His wife happened to be at the restaurant too. So she actually came to the bathroom and asked what was wrong. And I froze. I couldn't tell her. I just kept crying. So I actually called an ex-boyfriend and had him come pick me up, which is great and awkward to have ex-boyfriends that are, willing to, to still be by your side. And so, yeah, woke up the next morning and called one other person who was there that night. She was a former female teammate that was actually coaching as well. And the first question she asked me was, well, did you flirt at all? And that was, I don't put it all on her. There was a lot that I could have maybe done, but, it was definitely a question that then altered my mindset that maybe I had been the reason. It was my fault. I had done something, to invite this, and why me, and all of that tends to come after that type of question. And so I kept it pretty close to the chest that this had happened. Didn't really tell anybody about it. And then a couple weeks later, was reinvited out with everybody, was trying to go, let's just move on, blah, blah, blah. Didn't happen. I'll just be normal. And, we all go back to his house, the coach's house. Again, we're all coaches. We're all adults. No one's a player. I ended up going to the restroom. And as I come out of the restroom, he's standing outside the door. And that point I looked at him and I said, never, ever. And I pushed him away and I left immediately. And I did end up coaching the season. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't report it. I didn't do anything. I just felt as though I needed to coach that season in order to have his approval and his ability to get me the next job. And that's why I justified everything, is I needed him to help me get the next job. I didn't. I never, ever used him as a reference. I never wanted him to speak on my behalf. So 3.5 months of torture to coach for somebody that I was deathly afraid of every day, to what he would do or try to do to me. And I never actually needed him. I did everything on my own. And so it still traumatizes. It's still not easy. It still makes me nervous to be around male bosses at times and all of that. Doesn't mean that I'm nervous all the time. I'm probably good 99.999% of the time. But there's definitely, it's impactful. I wouldn't say it doesn't hit my brain. My family knows about it. So having your parents know that happened to you, it's not the easiest conversation to tell them. But I have awesome parents who were both very supportive of everything that I wanted to do and stay with it. I have an awesome husband who is there when I'm bawling, crying, and bald and, a little ball, and absolutely been there. And when I'm talking about it openly and honestly on, different forums like this one, everyone stands by me and is really supportive. So it was not a great story, but do I think it has a happy ending? Maybe not completely happy right now, but excited that I am comfortable enough to talk about it publicly and hopefully help others understand, whether you're the victim of it or you're the friend who gets told, how you can handle that, which is just say, I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do for you? Less questions and more just support. And then to help other coaches know that there are situations like this that occur that they maybe have no idea, but it's the reason that coaches leave the game. And especially females who can be put in really compromised positions. But there's absolutely male coaches that are abused. So I don't want to make it exclusive to females. There's definitely going on with both genders, all minorities. We just need to be protective and safe and just respectful to one another. That would be the big thing.
How can we make the game fun again for people who have been hurt?
That's an awesome question. And one that, for me, as I kind of answered before with the question of what it took time. It took time. It took reminders of what I loved about the game to be shown to me. It took a lot of self-reflection to, again, I did a talk today actually with a team here in Kansas City, a club team, and we talked a lot about confidence. And where does confidence come from? Well, the first thing confidence comes from is you have to acknowledge what you're good at. If you can't say what you're good at, or I've done a good job, confidence by other people telling you did a good job helps a little bit, but you have to know it. And so a part of confidence also comes with reflection and understanding what you like, what your priorities are, what's important to you. If that piece of that priority that you get to own because it's you and you're confident in it and you understand it because it makes sense to you, when it's soccer and that's such a high priority to you, that when the really, really bad, negative, huge hurdle that you think you will never, ever be able to get over and see the game again, I promise you with time you will. So for making it fun again, I would say for people that, if it's your friend or your sibling or a parent or whatever it may be that has that experience, is give them time, let them lead that process, but ask them to find the moments that they liked about the game. And for me, honestly, I didn't really want much to do with that team. I didn't want to wear the Toledo logo. I didn't want to wear any of those logos because to me it was too much of a memory. But now I can wear it. It just took time. And so for me, it's telling kids and telling victims that you will lead the process. You will be in charge of this. But remembering what's a priority and what's important for them for the game to be fun, and then letting them lead that and be supportive of it.
So how can a player tell if a coach is being hard on someone, and when does that become abuse?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. It comes in so many different ways. And I think first the accountability lands on the coach. Our job as coaches is, in my mind, it's the person first, the player second. We're really there to help provide a person with an opportunity, a moment, an outlet, the playing experience in the player that then develops in those moments is a great thing and something you're excited to support. So if we're not there for the reasons that are best interest, then I think that's the first thing. As coaches, we have our own personal lives that add frustration. I can think of 1,000 practices where something in life had gotten me mad or frustrated or whatever, and I went to training and I took it out on the players, and that should have never been it. I should have been more accountable to what my responsibilities are there. So first and foremost, it's on the coach to know their own boundaries and know what they're expected to do and what is a reasonable behavior for players. Now, as a player, recognizing it can be really hard. I remember I was always a player that I was short and stubby, and weight was always something I had to fight with. I mean, especially high school age, it didn't matter. I had to be aware of my nutrition, aware of my physical activity to try to keep myself fit. And so I had been injured with, I think, an ankle or something. And the coach was making a lot of comments about my weight. And I don't know if I was just being hard on myself. I didn't really see it as a problem. That's bad that I didn't, but I just didn't. It just didn't hit me. But you know what? My teammates did. And my teammates spoke to him and my teammates spoke to me about saying that is out of line. That is completely inappropriate. So if I can give some word of advice, is if something makes you feel off, something makes you feel mad, something makes you feel like you've done something wrong, I would ask the player to look at what occurred and really ask, was something done wrong by you? You missed an open goal. Did you do something wrong? Well, maybe you could have corrected your foot, your shoulders, your hips, right? But did you really do something wrong? No, you just need to correct something. So if your coach is going off on you that you did something wrong by missing the open net and yelling and berating you, whatever it may look like, One, if it's the first time, it's addressing it and just saying, I did not appreciate that. I agree. I missed the open goal, but my hope is that I can fix the error and, make my technique better or whatever it may be. But there's no reason that that's a wrong thing. The wrong thing is to make someone feel like they're an absolute idiot. So first off, I'd ask the players to look at any time there's that situation, and whether it's you or your teammate, is there something that's really gone wrong? And if there has, where is that action coming from? And is that the person to blame? So it's a hard one. If you think there is that case, my recommendation is always to have your parent and you go speak to the individual. So if it's the head coach, the assistant coach, whoever, directly speak to that person about their behavior, because you know what? It might have been a bad day. And that's not an excuse, but it's a learning opportunity for us. And so having that one-on-one conversation may be enough. If it doesn't feel like enough, you need to then escalate it appropriately and quickly, because one incident will quickly turn into multiple. And I think that's the thing that I always encourage, is that open transparency has to be in the conversation, has to be there. And, again, bad days happen, but that's usually it's not just a bad day. So being open, being honest, being brave, leaning on teammates, leaning on your parents is always something that can make it a little bit easier to have a conversation about things that seem off or seem uncomfortable or feel wrong.
So we've made it to our final question.
Uh-oh.
Our final question is, what do you hope people remember about your impact to soccer and the world?
Wow. Oh, geez. Man. I want to be someone that anytime you interact with me, I hope I make you feel excited about what the game brings. I want to be someone that when we have a conversation, or I do a speaking engagement, or I work with you at a training session, or I'm your instructor, or wherever the interaction happens, hopefully at a game or whatever, that you feel the same excitement about the game, about what soccer does, or what it could do. And at the same time, if it's not soccer as that excitement, giddy juice that you drink, if it's, I don't know, art, I have a roommate from college that does amazing pottery, and that is like her thing. And it is so awesome. And talking to her about it, like, you just feel the energy. And I think that's the biggest thing, is I want people to see me as someone who brought energy, brought solutions, brought an open forum to the really negatives without getting so drawn down into what the negatives did, and actually pulled others out from what seems like something that they can't really crawl out of, especially as it relates to loving the game again. So I don't know. That's a tough question. I feel like I'm not old enough to answer that one. I think I need a few more years, but I don't know. I just hope that people come away from conversations with me not going, oh man, she's that girl that got, her coach did something and that's all she talks about. It's like, no, like, let's go do way more. Like, that it happened to me and it's horrible, and I will talk to you about it, and I want to use that because that is my spark plug. That is the thing, among a lot of other things, the divorce I told you about, the injuries, all of these other things, they're these little spark plugs in life that said, how bad do you want it, Candice? And I had to answer that question. And for right now, it's keep on trucking, keep on going.
So like I said before in my introduction, I know this is a very difficult topic for many to discuss, but I think as a soccer community, it's very important to learn about so we can overcome it. If you're struggling with anything related to sexual assault, I encourage you to reach out to Safe Sport or any other organization in your community. Even if there's only one person you want to talk to, do it. If it's someone you haven't talked to in a while, it's okay. Just like Candice said, she called up her ex-boyfriend, and that is completely fine. You just need to find someone that you feel comfortable talking to. As always, stay safe and healthy, and until I see you next time, remember to keep the game beautiful.